Well, hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 12 of the Path Podcast. I am Jason.
I'm Derrick.
And we are happy to be with you after taking a week off for Christmas break. But this is our season finale of Season 2. And we're so glad that you have stayed with us during this time. And we appreciate the fact that there's people who listen to our ramblings.
Yeah.
That's encouraging, I guess.
But all good things must come to an end.
That's right. All good things must come to an end. And here we are at the end of this season. So I think that I speak for everyone when I say 2020, wow, man.
Yeah.
And it's been quite the year. And a few weeks ago, we talked about just sort of looking back at things that have happened in the life of our church. And to end up this season and to end up this year, we wanted to take a few minutes and just to talk about some things that what have we learned this year? Because if anything, I would say that 2020 has been a master's level course in sociology, maybe, and a master's level course in just learning how people interact, how people respond to each other, how people think, and which is sociology, by the way. But it's just been it's been interesting. But then I think that for me personally, I've learned a lot about myself this year, I think, in my relationship with the Lord. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just spend a few minutes talking about some things that we've learned this year. And I'm going to let you start this discussion off, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so definitely. So we're doing a couple things that we've learned. I have learned the importance of slowing down. So it was thrust upon us, right?
Right.
In March.
Yeah.
It's hard because, like, March, man, things were just ramping up here at church, particularly. That's the world I live in. So, you know, I mean, it's that those things were ramping up. We had just had an amazing men's event. And, like we were leading up to Easter, you know, I was praying it was going to be the biggest Easter we've had yet, and so, you know, ministry is kind of an interesting thing because, you know, it's real easy to get focused on the next event, the next big thing, the next or whatever, and we don't always take time to stop, reflect, pray, rest. It's always like, hey, I've got to do one more thing. I got to do the next thing. I got to do that. And March, you know, second week of March, a big break, you know, like just the world hit the brakes.
Yeah, screeching halt.
Yeah, and that was hard.
Yeah.
Of course, at the time, we only thought it was 4 weeks.
Here we are.
Here we are at the very end of the year.
Yeah.
And it's not over.
Right.
You know? But I think that was good. You know, like, I think it was good to just, like, hit the brakes. Reflect on what matters most, you know. When so much of the church world is, let's focus on attendance and focus on numbers and focus on this and that or whatever, good, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Right.
That's just kind of the world we live in.
Yeah.
It helped you to really focus on what matters most, you know, like caring for people in a really big time of need.
Yeah.
Finding new ways to do that because you can't do it on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
You know, like you used to work because everybody's not able to come right now.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You know, not being like upset by it or let it drive you insane, but just finding pause to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Waiting to be a good thing. Anticipate, you know, helps build anticipation, helps helps. You know, I mean, I preached a message a couple weeks ago. You know, when I preach these messages, God speaks to me long before. Mm-hmm. Who knows? He may never speak to anybody else, but certainly speaks to me. And you know, I was looking at the Joy Week of Advent as I'm studying, and I just came to this conclusion. Joy often comes in an antithetical way to what we would expect or hope.
Yeah.
And what we've been told by the world too. You know, joy comes in pleasure and whatever. And then the passage of Scripture in the writer of Hebrews talks about that Christ found his joy in enduring the cross.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait a second. Joy comes in endurance. Joy comes in the waiting. Mm-hmm. Joy comes in dealing with the thing, you know, or whatever the thing is.
Which is so opposite of how we normally
Absolutely.
think. Yeah.
But that's what I needed.
Yeah.
I think it's what our world needs too. Particularly Christians, you know, it's like, okay, we're waiting, we're forced to wait.
Yeah.
We can't, you know, it's hard to make plans right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what tomorrow holds or whatever, and, you know, which you didn't before, but it's a little more predictable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just that waiting and finding joy in the waiting, I think is a lesson that I've learned, that forced pause, that forced, you know, value and focus on the things that really matter the most.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I feel like there's a nuance of that I'm not communicating, but I can't think of what it is at this point. So
yeah, no, I think that you're so right that there is a and people who aren't in ministry as a profession may not grasp this or understand this, but ministry is very cyclical or it's very seasonal, and that doesn't line up with like the seasons of the year, but it's just very seasonal in that. There's always a thing that you're having to look forward to. Mm-hmm. Like I think about the meme that rings true for me right now is it's like it says worship pastors everywhere, like, oh great, we're done with Christmas, we can rest for a minute, and then it's the picture of Jim Halpert from The Office looking through the blinds, and it says here's Easter, and he's like looking through the blinds waiting on you.
Yeah.
And there's so much truth to that plays itself out in a ton of different areas of ministry that. You feel like there's always another thing that when you get done with that thing, there's you can't sit on your laurels. It's you got to get ready for the next thing, and being forced to sit and wait has been, while it feels very awkward, I think it's been a good thing in a lot of respects this year for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was one thing you learned?
Yeah. So one thing that I've learned is. My desperate need for community, and when I say mine, I'm gonna extrapolate that out to everyone. Everyone's desperate need for community. I think that we've been reminded this year of the fact that we were not created to live in isolation. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not. Please don't hear me saying that don't isolate yourself if you need to for health reasons, but. From a fundamental standpoint, we need each other. Yeah. And I've been reminded of that this year, just in that, our family we are a very social family, that we love to have people in our home. We love to be around other people. We love to do things with other people. And there's been long stretches of this year where we hadn't been able to do that. Yeah. And that has been more difficult than I ever thought it would be. Just because I want to have people in my home, and I want to be around other people, and I want to talk and laugh and share and grow and learn from other people, and and we've been forced to get that in other ways this year, which is a good thing, because I think that it's forced us to be creative in how we participate in community. But at the same time, man, like, I cannot tell you how badly I long for the day when we can just hug each other again. Like, I know that sounds so cliche and silly, but gosh, man, I didn't realize how much I enjoy hugging people until this year when I couldn't hug people. I long for the day when we can just have a big group get together in somebody's home, and
you don't have to worry about regulations.
Exactly. I didn't realize how much I loved that. I mean, I knew I loved it, but I didn't realize how much I loved it until this year when we couldn't do it. And I think the thing that I've really learned through that is that we help each other grow so much in so many ways that we don't realize, and especially in our faith, that when you don't have that real life on life, like, hey, here's what I'm struggling with, and oh my gosh, I've struggled with that same thing. Let's talk about how God's helped us get through that, and that's such an integral, important part of our Christian walk that that's been difficult to make happen this year. It's not impossible, but it's been difficult to make happen because, like you said a while ago, that you don't have that just. There's into your weekly schedule. There's built in. We're gonna see each other. We'll be together in the same room. That's not the case anymore at the moment, and so it's forced us to be really creative. I think as a family, Kim and I and the kids, that I didn't realize how desperately I longed for and loved community, especially within the church, until it wasn't there anymore. And it makes me that much more grateful for times when I get to be around people. Yeah, I think
that's good.
So, how about you? Something else? Your thoughts on that?
So I mean, I think you're right. Yeah, absolutely. I think we all need community. I think some long for it more, but we all need it.
Yeah.
You know what
I'm
saying?
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
And so, we've had to be creative, and thankfully we have been.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that.
In some ways, but it's just not. It's hard because it's not the same. That's already built in, like the built-in that's already there. Like Sunday school, some classes are meeting and have been for several months.
Yeah,
but it's just not the same.
Right. Which I think speaks to. That community doesn't just happen.
Right.
Like, you have to work at that.
You really do.
You have to work at community, and it helped me to realize how lazy we are in developing community. Yeah. Like, we'll go to church. Community will happen there.
Yeah.
Well, no, not necessarily.
Yeah, I'm really excited about our discipleship ministry team is ramping up to look at ways to be intentional about our church, ensuring that community is a part of it. Yeah. And it's not just Sunday morning or Sunday school or whatever. There are other opportunities. Like, I started a D group in the midst of this pandemic. I've loved that, man. I met those guys, except for the past couple weeks because I got COVID. But prior to that, weekly. Yeah. And it's good, man. It's just so good. It's So, and I think some of that stuff we can go ahead and do, just be more cautious. Yeah. But it's hard because your built-in's not there. It makes you really have to be intentional and thoughtful, which is something we needed to do anyway.
Absolutely.
And it's forced. That's one of the things I've noticed. This is not my thing, my second thing. It's one of the things I've noticed is that really the things we realize we need to do, we should have been doing already.
Absolutely.
But it's really easy to get stuck in like just the rut of, well, we always do this, we always do that, or we always do that. And I think and some of those things are good and fine, like a Sunday morning, Sunday school class in a room at our church is going to be exactly what a group of people need. Yeah. Yeah. But then some of us may need something different, like a D group or whatever, like I was talking about with me and these 4 guys. It's just a little bit different. It offers a different essence of discipleship there or whatever. And so I think it's forcing us to do things we should have been doing all along. Yeah. I was talking to somebody yesterday about church attendance is down, and I mean it's a pandemic. I'm not worried about it. Yeah. But I do know that once this thing eases up, if it ever does. Yeah. Once this thing eases up, then we're gonna have to go out there and beat the drum again for hey, come back to church, hey, or whatever. But we should have been doing that already. Yeah. With for sure in our communities and with people. So it's just gonna force us to do things that we should have been doing all along.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. You know, I mean, like, it's real easy to look negatively on 2020.
Right.
But 2020 has taught us some really good lessons, too.
Absolutely, yeah.
And just simple things. So, like, my other one is just, like, my kids are growing up astronomically fast.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of relates to my previous one about pause. Like, I've learned that I've got to be intentional about the time that I have, you know, because it's just going to slip by. You know, Allison said, you know, this year our kids were still little, and I mean, they still will be next year too, but for Christmas. But next year we'll have an 11-year-old, a 7-year-old, you know, a 5-year-old. And if something about 5, you know, it just seems like, golly, they're getting older. So then we'll only have Colt, who's the little one, you know. So it's just like, oh, that I don't like that, you know.
Right.
It's part of life. But just being intentional with my kids, man, that's a big lesson that I've learned. It's just like, hey, okay, chill, pause, make the most of every moment. Don't get wrapped up in like doing all the stuff you got to do, but like pull back.
Yeah.
Spend that time necessary. You know, you only have this one time.
Yeah.
I mean, those are things I already knew, but like they've been
reinforced. Yeah.
Super like evident.
Yeah.
Because of this, you know, it's just like it gives you time to pull back and look and say, oh wow, I really need to be more intentional or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's funny. Mine is a similar direction. That my second thing that something that I already knew, but that has been just drilled into me this year is that our God is sovereignly in control of all things. That 2020 did not catch God by surprise. That He didn't wake up one morning in March and go, wait, what are they doing down there? Like, that didn't catch God by surprise. He knew this from eternity past. This year would be like this, and so the fact that our God is sovereignly in control of all things plays itself out in a myriad of ways in our lives, and especially in mine. Two things that have sort of come to the forefront is that number one, I need to learn to trust God better. Not that was something I was struggling with, but that it, even in the tiniest, most mundane things, trust God. Trust God that He is in control, and you know, and I think it's easy for us sometimes to not step off into worry, but to jump head first into worry and despair and just anxiety. It's easy to fall off into that. Like especially over this last couple of weeks, you know, like as there's been this sort of scare with COVID among our staff. Like I'd be lying if I didn't say I had a freak out moment one day where it's like, well, what if I haven't? What if this happens? What do we do? You know, like just all of the, like you have that moment, and it's almost like Kim didn't slap me, but she could have. Like, hey, like snap out of it. You know, like. Yeah. You gotta pull yourself together here, brother.
Pull yourself together, man.
Pull yourself together. But I have to learn to trust God in all things. That, and not that I'm looking for it. I'm still being extremely careful. But if God wants me to get the coronavirus, I'll get the coronavirus.
That's exactly what will happen.
Yeah.
I did not want to get it either. I was not expecting to. So,
exactly. Yeah. And so I trust God in that. And that plays itself out in. It's funny that what you said, that I want to teach my kids so desperately to trust God, because I know, and I want them to learn now, before they have to go through things where they don't trust God and it causes them to have trouble. Yeah. Because I want them to learn at 13, 11, 8, and 5 and 6 I want them to learn to trust God, to know that God is in control, that God loves them, that God has the best for them, and that the human definition of good is not the same definition that God uses. Yeah. And that's something that I did not learn until I was well into my 20s. And And I wish I had learned that a lot sooner. And so that learning that God is in control and that we can trust Him to the ends of the earth and beyond is something that has been reinforced in my heart this year. And it's something that I want so desperately for my children to know, that they can trust in the Lord. And so in one sense, like people could hear this. I think people who listen to us regularly understand what I'm about to say, but in that sense, I'm very thankful for this year. I know a lot of people are like, good riddance to 2020,
right.
but I'm thankful for this year for those reasons. Just that it has allowed me. I'm thankful that God gave me the perspective to be able to learn these things, to not just go, man, poo-poo on this year. I'm so ready for it to be gone. And don't get me wrong, I'm ready for 2020 to be over.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity to learn,
right,
and see how God is still at work in the midst of what looks like chaos, at times.
So in our house, something I say a lot. My kids hate it, but I say, "Hey, find joy in the journey," right? And so they put their fingers in their ears and say, "No."
Yeah.
As soon as I say it, so it's kind of a fun thing. Like I'm totally dadding it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, well, you can just find, I play it up. But I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to it. And like, how hypocritical would I be, right?
Yeah, yeah.
To just be like in the doldrums every day about this year or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not what I know to be true. But I mean, it's easy. Trust me.
Absolutely.
There's been moments where I'm like, oh, really? So, great. I've spent $12,000 on a doctorate degree, and now I don't even get to go and walk, or whatever. I mean, there's definitely things that were like, oh, no,
Yeah, for sure.
But fine, that's just a lesson that I continually learn. I need to trust God.
Yeah.
And be thankful for every day. I mean, like, dude, today is a gift.
Yeah.
Today is a gift. It's in the year 2020. It's near the end, but it's a gift.
Yeah.
And so, how can I live like it's a gift?
Yeah.
I don't do that perfectly. I learn new things every day.
Absolutely.
But I think it's something I have learned, am learning, and will continue to learn.
Yeah.
But you're right. I want to teach my kids that as well. It's hard because, I think we think we know so much as children or in every stage of our life.
Yeah.
Except for maybe like, I'm getting to that point. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff I don't know.
Right.
There's probably more stuff I don't know than I actually do know.
Yeah.
And so, but, I remember being a kid and parents saying stuff like this and, hey, just trust God or whatever. And it's like, but really, I mean, it's like you think differently, and so it's so hard. I wish you could just shake your kids and say, "You will learn this. You will do this thing." That doesn't work at all for anything,
No.
But yeah, I same. I want my kids to learn sooner than later to find joy in the journey, man. Find joy in every day, and the fact that you have breath in your lungs and God has given you a new day and use that with purpose and don't just take a day at a time and not do something for His glory or for the kingdom's sake or whatever, those are things I've learned, am learning, and hope to teach others. So
yeah, for sure. Well, we're going to transition here. We have one more thing we'd like to do before we finish today, but we would love to know, what has God taught you? What have you learned this year through 2020, through all of the circumstances? We'd love to we'd love to talk with you. We'd love to email back and forth with you. However you can get in touch with us. We want to know what God is doing in your hearts and in your lives that you've learned this year, because I think that we've all been given the crash course in learning things this year, and that we all learn different things, and so we'd love to hear that. But before we go, so that we can end on a light note, happy times, right?
Yeah.
2020 has not been horrible either.
No, it's had some fun things.
It's had some fun things. We've got to experience some fun things. And so we wanted to talk for just a minute about some fun things that we've experienced this year. And so one thing I'm going to start since you started with the learning.
Yeah, go for it, man.
One thing that that was really, really fun this year is so Kim and I celebrated 15 years of marriage back in July, which is, it's not something that I take lightly because 15 years is a big deal, especially in our current culture, and it's just a big deal for us that we've been dating for 20 years and we've been married for 15, and so we've grown up together. Kim and I have, and we got to take a trip back at the end of July, and it was the first time that Kim and I had been on a trip, just the two of us, since Sophie was like 6 weeks old.
Yeah. So and how old's Sophie now?
Sophie is 11.
Yeah.
So it has been 11 years since Kim and I had been on a trip, just the two of us, and at the risk of getting mushy and potentially emotional, I was reminded of how deeply I love my wife. And not that I didn't know that. I'm so grateful for Kim. But it was so much fun to just to have 3 days where it was just me and her. And I love my kids to death. But kids are a full-time job.
Yes.
And
then some.
And then some. Yeah, they're a time and a half job most of the time.
Yeah.
But it was so wonderful just to get to be with my wife, and I'm so grateful for that. And that was one of the funnest things we did this year. That if you've never been to Charleston, I would highly recommend going to Charleston. It was a fantastic city. I cannot wait to go back. But I loved getting to spend time with just my wife, doing absolutely nothing, just walking around Charleston or going out to eat or whatever. Just being with her was so much fun, and I treasure that trip. It was so much fun. So
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I'm glad you got to do that.
Yeah.
We have a Dollywood annual pass.
Yeah.
Which has been extended, which is nice since they were off for several months. But we got that a year ago.
Yeah.
When my mom, we had gone to Pigeon Forge and went a day to Dollywood with my mom. And we went one extra day and was like, the cost of going one more day is the same as getting an annual pass. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we did that, and we were able to go several times back last winter and pre-pandemic. But we were able to go. We've been, I think, twice recently. That's fun, man. It's just fun. Our kids get amped up and excited.
Yeah.
They love going there and riding the rides. And Lottie rode her first loop.
Oh, nice.
Roller coaster, which she rode it before a particular other older sibling has ridden it, which Caroline's going to hate that I said that on this. But so that's fun, and there's a little rivalry there.
Yeah,
Caroline's a little. She's very brave, but she takes a lot longer. Lottie's just like, let's do it, let's go. She's the adventure seeker, and so it's just fun. It's fun to see those milestones and fun little things with your kids. So we've done that. Yeah. I didn't want to take away the one that we got to experience together, so I thought you could talk about that.
Yeah. No, well, we could talk about it together. So, the other super fun thing was that we got to go to Disney World together. Us and our wives and another couple that, you know who you are. We appreciate you. But
so, well, we have to set this up, right? Because, like, Disney, number one, you guys live there. And
Loved
had
it.
a thing called Disney Friday.
We are Disney fanatics.
Right.
Yes, fanatics.
Y'all had a thing, Disney Friday. You you were like 2 hours away?
Less than that. About an hour and 45 minutes away. Yeah.
So I lived vicariously through you before I even knew you. Because Allison had said, hey, look, here's my friend from high school.
Yeah.
And her husband's a worship pastor, and they go to Disney every week. I'm like, don't show me that. That just makes me jealous, right? So before I even knew you, I knew you had Disney Friday. And then we love Disney. We went on our honeymoon, and we've been almost every year since, and at least once, because we really like it.
Yeah.
So, in the last, 5 years, Disney has gotten where you cannot find a weekend or a weekday or any time that's not somewhat busy.
Yeah, always busy.
We've tried. Oh, look at crowd calendars, and this is going to be like not busy, and this is going to be not busy or whatever. You go, and it's not. It's like, no, this is not like what it used to be like when it was not busy. And so, which is fine. It's just, it's like, man, I'm just trying to find that time where it's like nobody there. Let's go. Yeah. We had even, because Southern Baptist Convention was going to be in Orlando, we were planning on going a day to Disney, and you guys were planning on going a couple days with your kids, and we didn't get to do that because that was canceled, of course.
Yeah. And Disney was closed during that time.
And it was closed, right. So. Well, Disney opened back up, and everything that I was seeing, because I am a really big Disney nerd, and I follow blogs and and video stuff, whatever. And we already did the Disney thing where everybody knows we're nerds, right?
Sure. Yeah, everybody knows that. So, that cat's out of the bag.
Yeah. So it's like, it's like nobody here. It's like empty, and I'm like, dude,
we should go.
Yeah. So we just kind of joked around about it.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
And then we joked around with some other Disney fans we know.
Yeah.
And you know who you are. And so it just like, bam, well, let's go. And I was like, really?
Wait, what? Yeah.
So we did a whirlwind trip. We left Wednesday?
We left Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And came back Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. So literally whirlwind trip.
Yeah.
And spent 2 days in the parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun, man. We got to ride.
It was super fun.
Rise of the Resistance, which was amazing.
And what's fun is that we have we have pictures from being there, obviously, that it's like right out in front of the castle at Magic Kingdom, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, we rode everything we wanted to.
Absolutely. Some things multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, you wore a mask. It was, if you're like, hey, let's go watch the parades and do the shows, if you're kind of that person, it would not be the time to go. But I'm not one of those people. Anyway, I'm like, hey, there's a parade? Sweet. All those people are not going to be on the rides. Let me go to the rides.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
and just in case you're wondering, it's still really hot in Orlando in September.
Yeah.
Just for the record.
Yes, it was hot. And
we
wearing the mask, was hot. You got used to it, but then we ate lunch, took them off, and had to put them back on. I was like, oh man, you've gotten used to it after several hours, and then it's like,
but it's not that bad.
It wasn't bad.
It didn't make it where I was like, well, I'm not coming back to Disney if I got to wear a mask.
And man, they did a great job in the lines of splitting you up 6 feet and all that, so it was safe. It was.
Yeah, we did. We had a fun time.
Yeah, and It was a fun little trip, and
I will say that it has caused a little bit of animosity between me and Kim and the other people who live in our home with us.
Yeah,
the 4 small ones. Audrey's favorite words are, "Then there was that time you betrayed us and went to Disney without us."
Yeah, our kids. Particularly Caroline, we're very upset as well.
Yeah. But their day shall come.
Yeah,
their day shall come.
It will.
But yeah, so all that to say, man, don't look at this year, 2020, and just put a big black mark over it and say, man, I'm forgetting that year. God worked this year. There were fun things that happened this year. God is still at work. There are still fun things that could happen. There's still a few days left in this year, and so don't look at time periods in your life, whether it's 2020 or whether it's 10 years from now. Don't look at it and go, well, I'm just going to forget that. I don't want to remember that time period, because you can learn so much, especially from adversity, but then you can learn so much just by learning to enjoy life. God has given us, as Derrick said, a gift. Today is a gift. Tomorrow will be a gift. The day after that will be a gift. And let's view every day as that. And let's use those days, number one, to live for our God, to love Him and to love others. But then number two, to just enjoy getting to be alive.
Yeah.
Like, I know as cheesy as that sounds, it's the truth. Like, enjoy your life. Don't just live life in the doldrums all the time, because that's not an existence that's fun for anybody.
Yeah.
So,
I think you're right.
But all that to say, thank you so much for listening and joining in with us each week. It is so much fun for us to do this. I enjoy this so much. And we're going to take a break, for a little while, but we will be back early next year sometime with Season 3 of The Path. We'll continue on with that, and we hope that you'll join us then too. We would love to hear from you. What's something fun that you got to experience this year? What's something you learned this year? You can email us at thepath@fayettefirst.life. We'd love to hear from you. But until next season, I am Jason.
I'm Derrick.
And we will see you next time as we continue down the path.